Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Marianne Shockley. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Marianne Clopton Shockley was born on August 14, 1975, and was raised in Morgan County, Georgia. In 1997, she earned a bachelor's degree, in 2001 a master's degree, and in 2009, Marianne graduated with a PhD from the University of Georgia. She worked for that same school as a professor in the entomology department. Entomology is the study of insects. Marianne spent her career teaching people about insects and highlighting their impact on the world. She was a big fan of turning them into a culinary delight and even wrote books about how insects were edible. She believed that insects were a neglected food source which could eliminate hunger from the planet Earth. I imagine eating insects would also eliminate not vomiting from the earth. As far as her personal life, Marianne was married and divorced 3 times and had 2 children. She lived in the town of Appalachia, which is 66 miles east of Atlanta. In 2017, Marianne started dating a man named Marcus Allen Lillard. They had originally met in 1995 at a country club where they both worked. Marcus made his living working at car dealerships. He had been married and divorced twice. In 2015, Marcus was convicted for the sale or delivery of marijuana, possession of cocaine, and possession of methamphetamine. His sentence was 20 years of probation. The romance between Marianne and Marcus was described as on-again, off-again, although there were certainly signs that the relationship was serious. For example, Marianne took Marcus with her on trips that she made for work, including to China, Ecuador, and Vancouver. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On May 11, 2019, Marianne Shockley made her way to the town of Milledgeville, Georgia, 51 miles south of Appalachia. She met up with Marcus, and they consumed alcohol at various restaurants and bars. They also used marijuana. At about 7 p.m., they arrived at the house of a mutual friend named Clark Heindel. He lived on Watson Reynolds Road. Marianne, Marcus, and Clark consumed ecstasy and marijuana. Other entertainment that evening included Marcus playing the bongo drums and Clark playing the accordion. At 1:06 a.m., now on May 12, 2019, Clark called 911 and reported that Marianne had drowned but was still breathing. Later, he said she was not breathing. At 1:20 a.m., first responders arrived to find Clark, Marcus, and Marianne naked. Clark and Marcus were performing CPR on Marianne. First responders pronounced 43-year-old Marianne Shockley dead at the scene. Marcus told the police that he and Marianne had been in the hot tub when he decided to climb out. Marianne told him not to leave, but Marcus left anyway. He walked into the woods to gather firewood. Later, Marcus changed his story and said he made the trip into the woods to recreate a scene from a documentary called The Last Shaman. Another changing element to his story was the amount of time he was gone. It may have been 15 minutes. It could have been an hour. Who knows? When Marcus returned to the hot tub, he could see Marianne slumped down with her nose under the water. He pulled her out of the hot tub and put her next to the pool, but in the process he dropped her. This caused a gash on her forehead. Clark also spoke to the police at the scene. He told them that when Marianne was in the hot tub, he was in the shallow end of the pool. The shallow end was away from the hot tub. The deep end was close to it. Clark approached Marianne at the same time as Marcus. The police believed that Marianne had been dead for at least 2 hours. They found it peculiar that the men did not immediately call 911. Foul play was suspected. The police separated Marcus and Clark with the intent of asking them further questions. Marcus was put in the back of a police cruiser, but Clark was uncooperative and kept walking around his property. At one point, the officer who was supposed to be watching Clark received a phone call. This distraction gave Clark the opportunity to slip away and enter his house. While there, he wrote a note and then made his way to the master bathroom. At this point, 69-year-old Clark Heindel brought an end to his own life through a self-inflicted shotgun blast to the head. The police charged into the house after hearing the shotgun blast and found Clark's body and the note. The note indicated that Clark did not know what happened to Marianne, but her death occurred on his watch. A significant portion of the note involved instructions on what his heirs should do with his assets. There was no mystery about what caused Clark's death. The police continued their investigation into the death of Marianne Shockley. An autopsy revealed that Marianne's cause of death was manual strangulation. The police developed a theory that Marcus must have strangled Marianne. 41-year-old Marcus Lillard was charged with felony murder, involuntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, and reckless conduct. His trial started on April 4, 2022. On April 8, the jury found Marcus not guilty on all 4 counts. They only deliberated for 35 minutes. Even though Marcus avoided prison time in connection with Marianne's death, he was not completely out of the woods. He was sent to prison to serve an 8-year term for violating his probation from those drug charges. His latest possible release date is October 15, 2030, although he will probably be released earlier than that. Now moving to my analysis. Marcus was found not guilty in connection with Marianne's death. His supporters argued that Clark could have been the killer, or maybe there was no murder at all. The state, of course, disagrees. They believe that Marianne was strangled and Marcus was the perpetrator. This brings me to the question, was Marcus guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Marcus was a convicted criminal when he started dating Marianne. He was on probation, yet he used substances including alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, and ecstasy. The risk he was taking, like going back to prison, was substantial. This is consistent with him being reckless. Marianne's autopsy indicated that her cause of death was strangulation. She had a gash on her forehead, which Marcus claimed was caused by him dropping her. Maybe there was another cause, like a fatal attack. There were only 2 people with Marianne at the time of her death, Marcus and Clark. According to 6 former love interests, Marcus had a long history of engaging in rough sex. Sometimes this included putting his hands around a lover's neck and squeezing. Clark was 69 years old, had no history of violence, had no motive to kill Marianne, and indicated in his note he did not know what happened to her. At the scene, Marcus lied to the police about his reason for going into the woods. His story about collecting firewood was ridiculous. There was already firewood stacked by the pool, and it had recently rained. He did not supply a straight answer about how long he was gone, either. At around 11 p.m. on May 11, Marcus started making calls to female acquaintances, looking for advice on how to revive an unconscious person. One of the people he called was a respiratory therapist who advised him to call 911. Why didn't Marcus call 911 immediately? Moving to the exculpatory factors, even though Clark may have looked harmless, he could have very well been the killer. Clark was a doctoral-level psychotherapist who lost his license in 2017 after being accused of having sex with a client. This is consistent with having a boundary problem. This is a severe boundary problem. Clark is the one who supplied Marcus and Marianne with the ecstasy. Maybe he gave them too much to incapacitate them, like Clark was looking to make a move on Marianne. There were bruises and abrasions on Clark's body, which is consistent with a struggle. Clark made his exit from this world right after Marianne died. This is incredibly suspicious. It appeared as though he was trying to escape responsibility for something awful, like a murder. Clark left a note indicating he did not know what happened to Marianne, but he had reason to lie. The note talked about how his assets were to be divided. Clark probably knew that if he confessed to a murder, a wrongful death civil suit would drain his estate and not leave anything for his heirs. In addition to the idea that Clark was the killer, there is another viable theory. It's possible that neither Marcus nor Clark was involved in a murder. The injuries which supported the idea that Marianne was strangled could have been caused by resuscitation efforts. Marianne may have died from a combination of factors unrelated to homicide. Maybe there was no strangulation. For example, Marianne had been using alcohol, ecstasy, and marijuana. Marianne suffered from an enlarged heart, which put her at risk of a fatal cardiac event. And the temperature in the hot tub was 107 degrees. The state's theory of the crime was that Marcus killed Marianne during sex, but he denied having sex with her, and there was no physical evidence that he did. As far as the delay in calling 911, Marcus was on probation. It makes sense that he would be a little bit worried about notifying the police, mostly because of the going to prison part. His drug use could also explain the delay. Furthermore, Marcus did call other people and try to get advice about rendering assistance to Marianne. This would be an unusual move if he had just strangled her to death. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Marcus is guilty? No. In my opinion, he is not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. As far as what happened in reality, I'm not sure. This case involves such a bizarre set of circumstances. For me, it's really tough to get past Clark's behavior. His move is so drastic, it's difficult to believe that he was not involved in any way in Marianne's death. Furthermore, the evidence supporting the absence of a homicide is somewhat compelling. In my opinion, Marcus probably did not commit murder in reality, but again, there's no way to be sure. He was certainly no angel. Anything's possible. One thing is for certain in this case, Marianne engaged in behavior which placed her life in jeopardy. The police found a note where Marianne wrote about how she kept selecting unsuitable romantic partners. Maybe there was something about impulsive and sensation-seeking men which made them exciting. It's hard to imagine how a professor, who clearly valued and enjoyed her career, could end up naked in a 107-degree hot tub on the same property with two naked men while using alcohol, marijuana, and ecstasy. This case is a reminder about how living fast and dangerously can result in not living at all. Now moving to my final thoughts. Marianne Shockley dedicated her life to showing the world the value of insects, small, simple, industrious creatures capable of extraordinary feats. They are often misunderstood, but remain essential to the balance of life. The order that Marianne found in the insect world stood in stark contrast to the chaos she encountered with Marcus. He was like a disruptive pest, one which consumes without contributing and leaves destruction in its wake. Driven by impulse, he buzzed in and out of her life, eroding the stability she had created. The lesson of Marianne's life may be that not all insects are beneficial to the ecosystem. It is best to keep some away. Marcus may not have been the predator who killed Marianne, but his presence contributed to her life unraveling. Even those brilliant entomologists can get too close to the wrong bug and pay the ultimate price. Those are my thoughts on the case of Marianne Shockley. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Just a reminder that I have a Patreon account which features over 300 pre-release videos. These videos are of the same quality as the videos I make public, and they often stay in pre-release mode for months, if not up to a year. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video.